For problem 28, we're trying to figure out if the equation defines y as a function of x, and the answer is yes, as you can see. But the bigger question is, well, why does it define y as a function of x? Why is that? So I urge you to pause the video and think through your answer to y, and then play the video and see if your answer matches mine or if we're close. So the answer to the question, why is this a function of x, is because for every x you plug in, you get only one y value out. So every time you plug a 1 in and you cube 1, you're gonna get 1. Every time you cube 2, you're going to get 8, and so on and so on. If the input is -1, then when you cube -1, you're going to get -1. So the answer to why is this equation defining y as a function of x is because every time you put one x in, this function defines or assigns one value of y to each value of x. So each value of x gets only one value of y, and you'll see in the next example a no. In fact, let's go ahead and do that now. The next example we're supposed to do here is number 32. So let's look at how number 32 is different than number 28. Zoom out a little bit here. So number 32, we're given that y equals plus or minus the square root of 1 minus 2x. And so one might be thinking, oh, well, this is y equals something, so this must be a yes, but this is a no for the exact same reasons why I gave you in the first example. So if we think about what this means, if we choose a value for choose a value for x, let's say 0, let's pick the easiest one. If we choose 0 for x, we get plus or minus the square root of 1 minus 2 times 0, which is plus or minus the square root of 1 minus 2 times 0 is 1 minus 0, and that's 1. So we get plus or minus 1. So in other words, when you put a 0 in, you get not just positive 1, but you also get -1 out. So if you think about what that looks like graphically, when you plug a 0 in, you get a 1 out, and you also get a -1 out. So that means you get two outputs for the same input. And if you get two outputs for the same input, that means you don't get one output for one input. Therefore, it's not a function, because a function is you get one output for every one input. So that's why this is not a function. So you can see hopefully the difference. You look at graphically over here, 1, 1, 0, 0, 2, 8 is way up there, -1, -1, and you actually get a graph that looks like this. Oops, comes up and goes in like that and goes back up again. So that's kind of a bad graph, but that's the general idea. In other words, every time you look for one pair of coordinates, that one pair of coordinates has an x to it, and then there's exactly one y. If you look at this graph here, here you've got one x coordinate of 0, and you've got a y up there and a y down there. So anyway, important that you can explain why this is a function and this is not a function. That's the big deal for this particular concept.